Classifies rock, country music, facts, and trivia. Thank you for being here. Got a wild one today. I always kind of wondered about some of these. I've got 18 country artists that kind of just disappeared. Cindy Thompson. Cindy Thompson launched a strong career with Capitol Records in 2000 thanks to her debut single, What I Really Meant to Say, which climbed to the charts to #1. Her debut album included 2 other hits, I Always Like the Best and I'm Gone. Quite suddenly, she stepped away from her music career in 2002, explaining she couldn't commit to obligations. Several years later, after co-writing Gary Allan's Life Ain't Always Beautiful with Cindy Goodman, she returned but didn't release new music on Capitol. However, in 2009, she did release a digital EP and another 3-song effort in 2015. She periodically performs. Ricochet. Ricochet released her self-titled debut album in 1996. The album was a winner for the 6-piece band, producing 4 hits, including Daddy's Money, the group's first #1. Ricochet's most recent album came out in 2012, but unfortunately none of the songs reached the charts. They have continued to play shows every year, with their most recent listing on February 14th of 2020. The Wreckers. The Wreckers were formed when friends Michelle Branch and Jessica Harper set their solo aspirations aside for one solid album and a few touring years. The Grammy-nominated Leave the Pieces and My Oh My were hit songs, but within 3 years, they split up to focus once again on being solo artists. Cletus T. Judd was called the Weird Al of country music during a career that stretched from the 90s to the mid-2000s, and put him in a list circle across the country. Parodies of songs by Toby Keith, I Love NASCAR, Kenny Chesney, My Cellmate Thinks I'm Sexy, and more usually came from hilarious country music videos. While not a radio mainstay, he was popular on tours and during his own headlining music comedy sets. Eventually, he gave up that life to focus on family and begin a radio career. Dina Carter. Who could forget the smash hit Strawberry Wine? The song was Dina Carter's debut single and her very first #1 hit. While it was also karaoke go-to down in Nashville, it's arguably one of the best-known country songs of all time. She found 2 other #1 hits in the height of her fame, and We Danced Anyway and How Do I Get There? And she's very much still around, having released her Southern Way of Life album in 2013 and having done a media tour in support of the 20th anniversary of her Did I Shave Legs for This album in 2017. Bobbie Gentry. Bobbie Gentry became a household name in '67 when her Ode to Billy Joe became a smash hit. It was virtually unavoidable, no matter what type of music you liked. Gentry won 3 Grammy Awards that year and sold more than 3 million copies of the song. Although she had other hits, none could touch what she did with Ode to Billy Joe. And she hasn't been involved in music since the '70s and seen in public since 1981. Black Hawk, one of my favorite bands. They signed their first record deal with Arista in '93. That same year, they released the debut single, Goodbye Says It All. The song climbed to the charts at #11 and is still their most well-known today, although they were no strangers to charts in the '90s. Black Hawk has since endured changes in members, but released an album as recently as 2019. The group's website shows a few tour dates for 2020 and indicated that just Henry Paul and David Robbins remain as permanent members of the group. Original member Van Stevenson died in 2001. Chris Cagle. He scored 5 top 10 hits in the early 2000s, Chicks Dig It, I Breathe In, I Breathe Out, and remained active as touring artist through 2014 before announcing he was retiring in 2015. His aim was to start a new career and spend time with his kids in Oklahoma, but in 2019 he indicated he was coming back for one show, and he brought new music in Iowa. He's just 54 years old. Jessica Andrews, she jumped into the music scene at the young age of 15. It wasn't until 2 years later that she scored her biggest hit. In 2001, she released Who Am I, a #1 single, her only #1 single, although she did find the top 20 with another release. Her most recent offerings came in 2008. John Michael Montgomery. Quietly, John Michael Montgomery has gone more than a decade without delivering a new country music album. Vocal issues have certainly slowed him. In January, the I Swear singer, January 2019, announced he was on a vocal rest after surgeries, and rumors around Nashville that these issues had plagued him for years. He did have shows slated for 2020, and he's retired. He announced his retirement in late 2024. Charlie McLean. who was an important country music singer in the 80s thanks to songs like Who's Cheating Who and Sleeping with the Radio On and Radio Heart. She made her way to the top 10 for the first time in 78 with That's What You Do to Me. Who's Cheating Who was her very first #1 and her most famous, but she scored a lot of other hits from the early to mid 80s. Unfortunately, the singer is no longer involved in music. She hasn't recorded a new album since 1989. She officially retired in the early 90s. At last check, she lived in rural West Tennessee. Chad Brock is known for his #1 hit, Yes, although he'd been around for a few years before releasing the smash single. Brock's second single was Ordinary Love, a song that 90s country fans will remember. It wasn't until he released his second album that he scored the #1. His career took an unexpected turn in 2005 when he became a morning radio DJ in Tampa, Florida, where he moved to Atlanta and eventually worked for a cable channel called the Country Network. Now, it's not clear what he does professionally today. Barbara Mandrell, while she is a country music Hall of Famer and considered a legend, her era of success was certainly cut short by the car accident in 1984. To collect money from her insurance company, she was forced to sue the family of the man who caused the crash, a 19-year-old that died. The public viewed this as only a celebrity suing a dead man's family, not aware of her intent or Tennessee law. Carolyn Dawn Johnson. Before Carolyn Dawn Johnson was known as an artist, she was a songwriter. She penned Shelley Wright's tune Single White Female, at #1 hit. She was signed as an artist in 2000 and released her debut album the following year. Johnson was responsible for 2 top 10 hits in Complicated and I Don't Want You to Go before taking a break from music. Tracy Byrd is a reliable 90s country hit maker. Charted his last country single in 2006, but hasn't really gone anywhere. With more than a dozen top 10 songs, including The Keeper of the Stars and 10 Rounds with Jose Cuervo, and several #1 hits, he's a very active performer who still records as he can. In fact, Byrd released a live album in 2019, 3 years after his last studio album, All-American Texan. One find a slate of 2020 tour dates. Not sure what he did after that. Little Texas weren't on radio waves for very long, but the group managed to leave a lasting mark on country music, the best known for My Love and their only #1. That wasn't their only hit. In fact, the group was a crossover song reminiscent of what might have been. Several members of the group departed over the years, but in 2004, with several new members, the group reunited and began recording music. Finally, in 2015, the band released a new 11-track album called Young for a Long Time. Ricky Van Shelton was a force on the country charts throughout his mid to late 80s, in the mid to late 80s, with a #1 hit after hit until his career cooled in the 90s. Songs like Somebody Lied and Life Turned Her That Way didn't get quite enough airplay these days. His most well-known song was Rockin' Years, a duet with Dolly Parton. Cole Dreggs. Remember Cole Dreggs, the lead singer of Cole Dreggs and the Lonesome? Their biggest and only hit was I Got More, which was released in 2007 and climbed to #25 on the charts. When their second single didn't have much success, they were dropped from the record label. Some of these I knew, most of them I knew. Some of them I didn't hear, like Craig Greggs I didn't, but I just figured some of you might. So they kind of disappeared, but they didn't. So now that you know where they are, kind of, a little bit. Anyway, all I got for you guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Please don't forget to subscribe and please like this video. I'd appreciate it. You guys have a great day. God bless you. And I'm praying for you.